Hello, everyone. Welcome to another English speaking podcast. I'm Dania, and today we are basically focusing on speaking about how to think in English. So, you will basically be listening to a conversation between two people sharing their opinions and thoughts on how to think in English. I would really appreciate it if you give it thumbs up and subscribe to the channel if you haven't. Also, if you have other topics that you want me to focus on, please let me know on the comments below. So in this case, let's start with today's English speaking podcast. I hope you enjoy it.
Hey everyone, and welcome back for another deep dive. We get a lot of questions about reaching fluency in English.
Yeah, it's a really common goal for language learners. And, one thing that comes up a lot is this idea of thinking in English.
Right. Like, how do you even begin to make that happen? Luckily, we found some awesome sources that break down this whole thinking in English thing. And I have to say, I'm feeling way less intimidated by it now.
Definitely. See, when you first hear that phrase, thinking in English, it can sound kind of overwhelming,
Yeah, for sure. Like, am I supposed to just suddenly start dreaming in English or something? But as I dug into these sources, it really clicked.
For sure. It's definitely not about some magical overnight transformation.
Right. So I guess, first things first, what does it actually mean to think in a language that isn't your native one?
Okay, so imagine this. Instead of translating everything in your head, you're actually forming your thoughts in English directly.
Okay. So I'm walking down the street, and instead of thinking native language for tree, it's just tree.
Exactly. No more middleman. And the sources point out that this shift can have a huge impact on your fluency.
Yeah, it makes sense, right? You're not stuck translating every word in your head. It's got to be faster. What else did the sources say?
Well, they talked a lot about how constantly translating can really mess with your fluency, it's actually holding you back.
Oh, yeah, totally. When I was first learning English, I would get so caught up in translating that I'd completely lose track of the conversation.
Yeah.
So frustrating.
Exactly. And not only that, but it can really impact your confidence too,
Oh, I can see that. Always feeling a step behind because you're stuck in translation mode.
It's like you have this mental barrier that you're constantly trying to break through, but when you think in English, you remove that barrier and you can just be present in the conversation.
That's such a good point. It's you're finally free to just be yourself,
Exactly. And that confidence boost can really spill over into other areas of your life too.
Totally. So the sources we have actually give some pretty practical tips for making this whole thinking in English thing a reality. Have you tried any of these techniques yourself?
I have, and they're simpler than you might think. The first one is to start small.
Okay, I like that. Less pressure.
Exactly. So instead of trying to narrate your entire day in English from the get-go, you just start with little things.
Like what? Give me an example.
Okay, so let's say you're brushing your teeth. Instead of thinking about it in your native language, you think to yourself, I am brushing my teeth. Simple as that.
Okay, I see. So I'm training my brain to use English even for those super basic everyday things.
You got it. It's about building that habit, even if it feels a little silly at first.
It reminds me of when I was learning language, actually. I used to narrate my breakfast routine in my head. I am pouring cereal. I am adding milk. It felt ridiculous at the time.
But it worked.
It did. It totally helped.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're starting small, building that habit. What's next?
So once you've got the hang of that, the sources suggest you start incorporating English into your daily routine even more.
You mean planning my day in English?
Yeah, exactly. Instead of thinking, okay, after this, I need to go to the store, and then you think it all through in English.
After we finish recording, I'll grab some lunch, then answer emails, something like that.
Perfect. It's all about getting those English words flowing in your mind more and more.
Okay, that makes sense. And I actually love this next technique. The sources call it label your world.
Oh, yeah. That one's fun. It's a hands-on way to immerse yourself in the language.
Okay, so how does it work? Do I need to fly to an English-speaking country?
Nope. You can do it right at home. Basically, you take sticky notes and write the English words for everyday objects on them. Then you stick those labels on the objects.
Wait, so I'm walking around my house sticking a note that says table on my table.
Exactly. It seems simple, but it's surprisingly effective because every time you see that object, you're also seeing the English word for it. It creates these little reminders throughout your day.
Wow. That's visual learning to the max.
Yeah.
I love it. It's like you're creating your own little English world.
Precisely. And you'd be surprised how quickly you start thinking of those objects in English without even realizing it. It's like you said, you're training your brain.
I am loving all of this. And speaking of training our brains, our sources were even thoughtful enough to give us some vocab to help us with this whole process, right?
Absolutely. They focus on words like schedule, which is perfect for, planning your day in English. And then there's habit, because consistency is key.
So true. And I need to work on that. What was the other word?
Challenge, because let's face it, learning a language and changing the way you think takes effort. It's going to be tough sometimes.
No pain, no gain. But yeah, that's a good reminder that it's okay to struggle a bit. It's part of the process. Did the sources offer any advice for dealing with those inevitable challenges?
Definitely. They really emphasize that consistency trumps everything.
The old practice makes perfect adage.
It sounds cliche, but it's so true. Even just a few minutes of dedicated practice each day can make a world of difference. It's like anything else you want to improve at, you got to put in the time.
No shortcuts.
Exactly. And, it doesn't have to be anything crazy. The sources even gave the example of narrating a simple walk in English.
The sun is shining, I'm walking to the park. Like that.
Exactly. Short, simple sentences. But over time, those little moments of practice really add up.
It's a marathon, not a sprint.
Exactly. And the key is to celebrate those small victories along the way. Don't get discouraged if you don't sound like a native speaker overnight.
Because it's a journey, right?
Yeah.
It's all about progress, not perfection. Well said. So, as we wrap up this deep dive on thinking in English, I want to hear from you.
Yeah, let's make this practical.
What's one small step you can take today to incorporate some of these techniques into your own language learning? Maybe try that walk narration.
And remember, it's not about being perfect. It's about making an effort. Even if you just spend 5 minutes thinking in English today, that's a victory. What will you commit to trying?
So yeah, this is basically everything that is related to today's English speaking podcast. Let me know what you think about this conversation. I would like to read your thoughts and your opinions toward what they have been speaking about. Also, if you have other topics that you want me to focus on, just let me know in the comments below. As for the upcoming video, I'm actually thinking about focusing more on other speaking topics. However, if you have other ideas that you want me to focus on, like maybe if you have maybe for example if you have some grammar questions or maybe grammar topics that you want me to explain, just let me know in the comments below and I will prepare them as well. So in this case, thank you so much for joining me, and I hope you're having a wonderful day, and I will be looking forward to having you on the upcoming video. Have a great day and take care. Bye.